Will DIG Eliud Lagat survive? Will he avoid going down? Those are the questions on the minds of enraged Kenyans, outraged Kenyans, who cannot believe that what happened to the late Albert Ojwang can actually happen in a democratic country with a beautiful constitution like the motherland Kenya. But as we said on this channel in an earlier video, we are bang in the middle of the season of exposure. Na kunaendanga hivyo, upende usipende, because this is a spiritual thing. You can't avoid it. And small things happen. Small things go wrong. And the way it happens is that something starts off as normal. We normally get away with this. It is a very simple thing. And then something small goes wrong. And the whole thing explodes. And you have a big mighty giant falling because of a very small thing. Kunaendanga hivyo. That is the season of exposure for you. And the truth is, I have never seen another case in recent times, in recent decades in Kenya, that has unfolded and managed to expose, to open so many cans of so many rotten worms. I have never seen. Folks, what is emerging now is a detailed timeline of what happened to poor Albert Ojwang. And it is shell-shocking. Multiple sources now insist that by the time Albert Ojwang arrived at the Central Police Station, his life was hanging on a thread. There are even sources that claim he was not even alive. And for those who have been following this case very closely, like yours truly, actually that does not come as a big surprise. Because very early on, we have seen telltale signs that the entries in the OB book, or rather the entries in the OB book, were fabricated. Yeah? In other words, entered after the fact. Yeah? Entered in order to support a narrative. It did not actually happen the way it happened in the occurrence book. Actually, what is emerging from this very unfortunate tragedy is that the attempts at a cover-up by the police are really failing in a bad way. In fact, they're just making matters worse. You know, to do a cover-up, you need to be super smart. To do a cover-up and get away with it is not easy. You really need to be smart. The government of Jomo Kenyatta, the first president of Kenya, got away with so many things. Not so much because those days Kenyans were not very sharp, were not very educated. No. But more because Jomo believed in experts. He believed in hiring the best possible person for a certain job. And even his son, the fourth president of Kenya, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, believed very strongly in experts. And many times, more often than not, you will reap the benefits on having settled for a very expensive expert to cover a certain area of your administration. But you see, the Ruto regime, this is one of the greatest weaknesses, don't believe in experts. The emphasis is on loyalists, getting people who will be loyal to the regime. And so we see the fruits of that right before our eyes. Cover-ups that are laughable. Damage control moves that are very laughable. A comedy. On a lighter note, they probably need to borrow a leaf from the smart schoolboy who was caught stealing mangoes. You know the story. Although he was caught red-handed with the mango in his hand, this kid was a very fast thinker. Teacher's voice. Kevin, what are you doing up that tree? You know the school rules very well. This area is out of bounds. Students are not allowed to pick mangoes. Now, appreciate Kevin's ingenious damage control move. The student looked back at the teacher, trying to remain calm, although he was shaking like a leaf. "Excuse me, sir. This mango, I found it there on the ground. And to avoid students stealing it, I decided to return it to the tree up here." The teacher could not control his laughter. He laughed and laughed until his poor ribs ached. And when he could recover a little, he ordered Kevin to go back to class. And he continued laughing. Ingenious damage control. I just thought you deserved to laugh a little before we move to the next heart-wrenching, very sad part of this saga. Now, to understand many things in this life, you need to be able to have the ability to step back and to take a bird's eye view of what has happened, and to have some empathy on the players on the ground. Try and imagine you are them. Try and figure out why a human being can do such a horrible thing to a fellow human being. And by the way, it is emerging that what enraged DIG Lagat so much, that he put scarce valuable government resources in going all the way to Migori, in tracking, and then going all the way to Migori to pick up the late Albert Ojwang. What caused all that appears to have been an exchange in the inbox. Yeah, the DIG said something, and the late Albert Ojwang's response was taken as a very serious insult to somebody so powerful. Even then, what was done to this blogger is very difficult to understand. And on this channel, we're always determined to try and understand, despite everything. Now, for us to be able to understand what may have happened here, it is key that we understand the psychology of the players, especially their state of mind, their current state of mind, and the reason for that state of mind that causes them to do such drastic, evil things. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not trying to get excuses for anybody. My only objective is for us to understand. Because when you understand something, you're always ahead of the pack. You're ahead of everybody else. And this saga I'm going to talk about unfolded deep, very deep inside State House. Okay? And I'm sure it'll blow your mind. But very quickly before that, there is a super fascinating message for you here today. Take a look. Now, if that piqued your interest, you can watch a full video right here on this channel, completely for free. Yeah, just check the description area below this video on YouTube, and it will lead you there to get that valuable, game-changing information. Right, let's get on with this. State House, Nakuru, February 1990. Now, multiple sources have come out and given us information. So much so that there is no doubt that these were exactly the mind-blowing activities that took place deep inside State House Nakuru, yeah, in February 1990. Kneeling before President Moi was the late Minister for Foreign Affairs, Dr. John Robert Ouko. He was already bleeding and badly hurt from a thorough beating he had received, yeah, under the supervision of powerful cabinet minister at that time, Nicholas Kipiator Biwott. Biwott was accusing Ouko of being disloyal to Moi and working with the Wazungus against Moi. And Ouko on his knees was desperately pleading to President Moi to listen to him and to believe him that he was totally loyal to the Kanu government of Daniel Toroitich arap Moi. And Moi was listening. And the following is key in this narrative. And it appeared that Moi was believing what Ouko was telling him. Suddenly, Biwott reached out and grabbed a small bunduki from one of the officers who was there, and he moved quickly na akapiga Ouko risasi kwa kichwa. Now those who were there were just frozen in shock at this development. Do you know what Biwott said next? He apologized and he told President Moi he had lost his temper. Eish! Ouko had been a cabinet colleague of Biwott. There is nothing Ouko had done to Biwott. But it was clear that a spirit of jealousy had arisen inside Biwott over a long period of time against Ouko. There are various things which happened to confirm this. But even if Ouko had done many bad things to him, did it warrant those actions of Biwott right inside State House Nakuru? Of course not. So what was Biwott's frame of mind? Now this is something I want us to understand so that we better understand the current case of Albert Ojwang. It would appear that there is a dark side of human nature when you become untouchable, when you have so much power in a country. A certain arrogance, yeah, creeps inside you where you believe you can do what you like and get away with it, and nobody will do anything about it. And it seems that the tendency is to flex one's muscles and keep on doing things to prove to yourself again and again that you are untouchable. I suspect the people who came up with the phrase drunk with power were referring exactly to something like this. Although the late Ouko was a cabinet minister, he was nothing. He served at the pleasure of Moi. Moi could fire him at any time. He was at the mercy of Moi. He was nothing compared to powerful Biwott, who pulled all the strings and who had become fabulously rich because he was untouchable. In the same way, the late Albert Ojwang was a nobody, a teacher stationed in Voi, yeah, visiting in Migori, having lunch with his dad. He was just an ordinary Kenyan, sometimes active on social media, and actually becoming more and more influential on Twitter. That's all. In sharp contrast, Eliud Lagat is a senior cop, right up there in the chain of command, yeah, reporting only to the Inspector General of Police, although we are told that actually things are not quite like that, as they should be. Anyway, Lagat was up there, and the late Albert Ojwang was a nobody. In the eyes of Lagat, he was nothing. Just like in the eyes of Biwott, Ouko was nothing. And now here is my main point. It would appear, history tells us, that when people drunk with power, yeah, do these brutal things to people who are nothing, they never get away with it. When they do the same thing to other people, They get away with it many times. But when these people drunk with power do something like this to an innocent person who is nothing in their eyes, they never escape from it. The thing finishes them. The thing haunts them. The thing just destroys them. That is what history tells us. Ben Geddi, who was a main participant in the assassination of the very popular Nyandarua MP, J.M. Kariuki, was destroyed by that thing he did to J.M. Kariuki. Indeed, on his deathbed, he went to great lengths to beg his children to reach out to the J.M. Kariuki family and apologize and give them certain details they may not have had. Coincidentally, Bwana Lagat has also headed the GSU at one point before he arrived at his current station. Nicholas Biwott never ever recovered from what he did to Ouko. Indeed, in Biwott's last days, the guy lost his mind. It is like he went mad. Yeah, there was something wrong upstairs. Very wrong upstairs with him. And so with that background, very quickly, let us go back to the question we started with. Will DIG Lagat get away with this? Now, it would seem as if what the universe is doing now is being very determined to tell us this person you thought was nothing is actually something. Utajua aujui. That appears to be the message. Because this Albert Ojwang thing is not going away. And it is threatening the very foundation of the KK government. That's what it's doing. And therefore, the option open to State House is only one. And that option is to sacrifice Eliud Lagat. And maybe even to lay all the blame on him, including the blame of what the government has been accused of, over the killings of the Gen Zs, to lay all that on him. Okay? And really, their options are very limited. Because the alternative to that is for both Lagat and the Ruto regime to go down together. So really, they don't have a choice. And so, in my opinion, Lagat cannot survive this one. But even as they do that, even if they take that measure, it will not be enough. Yeah? And what will happen is that this shoddy treatment of a nobody, somebody who was nothing, allegedly, yeah, he was a human being, by the way, that's very important. Anyway, in the eyes of the perpetrators, this thing of treating a nobody like this, so brutally, as if they're nothing, the KK administration, the Ruto regime, will not be able to survive it, even if they sacrifice Lagat. That is just my opinion. Other opinions that are different are very welcome in the comments area below. But that is the opinion of Kumekucha Chris, the informed, experienced opinion of yours truly. Now, very quickly before I go, I want to remind you to find the time to take in my very detailed but very short video, barely 8 minutes, that gives very hot tips on how to survive this dead economy we're going through. Yeah, you'll find all the details in the description area below this video on YouTube. You know, in my very latest highly sensitive special report, there is also a story of a cover-up, yeah, by a very prominent politician known right across the country and across the globe. Actually, that mind-blowing story also includes a cover-up that worked. And to this day, a vast majority of Kenyans don't have a clue. And I'm thinking that is why so many people who have already taken in this special report have written to me, SMS, email. I've received very many of them. And all of them are saying the same thing. Wah. Chris, you can't be serious. You mean this is what happened? Well, it all makes sense now. Lakini hii story, kali sana. Moto kuliko pasi ya makaa. Of course, they're not using those exact words, but that is exactly precisely what they're saying. And I know some of them are listening in. Please confirm in the comments area that I have not misrepresented what you said to me. Please confirm either way. Now you can see details on your screens right now. Please rush and make a decision quickly and get hold of this highly sensitive special report. All you need to do is to M-Pesa only Kenya shillings 2,999. You can see the number there, the usual number. And pop, you will have not only this highly sensitive special report, but all other special reports produced previously. And I can guarantee you, hey, it will be worth your time. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.